is out now on Apple TV Plus. I missed this one last week, so I'm getting the chance to talk about it now. It stars George Clooney and Brad Pitt. Hired to cover up a high-profile crime, a fixer soon finds his night spiraling out of control when he's forced to work with an unexpected counterpart. This is directed by John Watts, the director of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and I think that this is a fine movie. I really do like George Clooney, and despite all the negative things that are happening with Brad Pitt, I'm a firm believer you have to separate the art from the artist, unless if it's like something really bad, like Harvey Weinstein. There's never going to be any outside force that's gonna make me stop liking him or stop watching his movies, and this one's fine. He and George Clooney have good chemistry, as they have proven in the past with the Ocean's trilogy. They bounce off of each other. I like that there's certain character dynamics here that are different from each other. Like, George Clooney is the one who's going in to get the job done, has to do it the right way, get out, and just complete the job. Whereas Brad Pitt's more of the jokester type of guy. And that was really interesting. Their banter off of each other was really fun. I really liked the certain situations that they're put in and how each of them would handle it. As I said, Brad Pitt's more of the jokester type of guy. He has his own way of handling it. He gets to the solution, but he kind of gets around that using a little bit of comedy. I wouldn't say slapstick comedy, whereas George Clooney's just kind of looking at him like, the fuck are you doing, man? That made for a lot of fun. That made for an interesting character dynamic between these two. The funny thing is, you don't know their names. So I could see a scenario where the audience doesn't really latch on to these guys. I mean, you don't really know much about them besides the fact that they're rivals. They work for a couple of different companies and they don't know who each other are. They don't know each other. And they're kind of forced into this, but I think that that's really the charm of this movie, is them being like, hey, I work alone and you have your own separate way of working, but we got to team up to fix this whole thing, which I thought was really interesting. I think the movie moves at a brisk pace too. I think it's quick. I think it's energetic. At least for the first half, I looked at the timestamp. It was an hour into the movie. I was having some fun just watching these two bicker back and forth, how they were going to figure some things out, and I think that that was the charm with that first half. I think that that's why it moved so quick. It felt so energetic because these two are pros at this point. But I think the second half really falters, and the entire movie itself really doesn't have a style. And I feel like a movie like this should have a style. This is John Watts. I mean, when you're looking at the Spider-Man films, there's nothing that really sticks out style-wise compared to that. They're just great because Spider-Man's cool, great story, great characters, but there's nothing that really sticks out filmmaking wise, and there's nothing that sticks out filmmaking wise here to me either. And that could be John Watts' style. I haven't seen anything outside of his Spider-Man filmography until now. I just get the feeling that if this was somebody else, even if they are like the most generic filmmaker in the business, they would have at least tried to put some style into this to make it feel a little bit more smooth, to make it feel like it actually was like a little bit more cool, you know? This just felt a little dry for me. It didn't have the cool, suave sexiness that I feel like some of these movies tend to have. And I think the second half, once this kid, Austin Abrams, who I call discount Walmart bargain bin Timothy Chalamet, once he gets involved with everything, I think the movie just takes a complete nosedive. It's still interesting, but it's not as interesting as watching Brad Pitt and George Clooney bicker with each other and banter with each other for the first hour of the movie and try and figure out certain situations and how to get out of certain situations and their quick-wittedness like they do in the first half. The plot is definitely evolving in the second half, and I do think that the plot, I like where it goes. It just feels so much slower. It feels like the movie grinds to a complete halt. It just feels like the energy was lost. And that's why I feel like John Watts probably wasn't the best director for this movie, because I think that they needed somebody who could keep the quick-witted, fast pace of the first half up. And John Watts, I think he does that a lot in his movies, where he has sequences that are really fast and then it just slows down a little bit too much. And that's how I felt, honestly, with Wolves. And I think that that's why I think you could look at this movie as maybe just a time killer. I know I say that a lot sometimes, but I think that that's true with this one. Pass the time, hour and a half, watch this movie. You're not going to be blown away by anything in here, but I mean, it's worth a watch. It's nothing horrible. It's better than most streaming movies, but I just wish it had a little bit more of an artistic style to it rather than just feeling more dry and generic than this movie should. And it just needed to be a little bit more fast paced. I think Wolves is fun with just over half a bucket of popcorn. Ordering on 3/4 of a bucket of popcorn, but not quite there. So, guys, thank you very much for watching my review of Wolves. The Halloween Spooktacular is coming soon. I am also filming in a different background. This is a different room of my condo. It looks very basic, very generic. So eventually I do want to put some stuff up in the background, but there may be times where I do have to film against this blank wall here instead of in my usual background in the living room. Halloween Spooktacular coming soon. Can't wait to talk some horror movies. It's going to be fun this year. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.